So like
Yeah, exactly.
what you do is not like so you can't judge it based off of that. Richard's calling me.
Yeah, it's a great point though, because it's just like tons of people do shit they don't want to do. So they do it because they think they're supposed to. It's a weird thing, but you'd think about it.
Sorry, Richard.
If you wanted to talk, you could talk on the podcast.
It's kind of fun.
You had your chance, Richie.
Yeah, you ruined us, Richie. You spoiled it.
No, I don't know. I like talking about the personality stuff, but I also think it's like super dangerous.
Yeah.
It's like I'm an INTJ. Like I can't get past this. And this is like you're a fucking geek,
Yeah, no,
right?
no.
Like,
No, you can't limit yourself on an Enneagram, but the Enneagram I think is interesting because at least maybe if I knew other people's Enneagrams, I can understand their motivation in life or maybe how they respond to things or something.
Well,
like that.
that's where like what you're talking about, how they base a lot of that stuff off of motivation, right? So when everyone in businesses are looking to fill a candidate or qualified person, they're going to base off those motivations so that way they know how they're going to fit in that work environment versus just on, obviously I'm going to act different if I'm doing this versus stop being out in public. So.
Yeah. I think sometimes, if you're taking an Enneagram or a personality test for a job, though, I would know the answers they're looking for. Yeah. I'd be like, oh no, I'm definitely this really hard worker that stays busy and never stops. I'm very organized. And
some jobs require you to actually take one of those tests.
Yeah.
So that way they can see exactly where they fit. And if you're looking for the candidate of that part of the team, because they may not already have certain roles fulfilled. So they're looking for like, all right, hey, we want this person to be more fit in this role.
Yeah.
Because we already got that outspoken person. Now we're looking more for like an analytical person. And so that way they can have a good team versus just having everybody butting heads on who's going to be in charge.
Yeah, that's true. Have you ever taken an Enneagram test?
I have a long time ago.
Do you remember? You don't remember? Okay. There's a lot of cool ones. It's 1 through 9, I think, is the numbers 1 through 9. And nobody's one, like one specific number. Everybody has a mention. Everything of all of them for the most part. So my main ones 3, 5, and 8. The 8 is I call it the Ragsdale trait. It's the thing that the stubbornness we all have together, right? But the 3 I think is my little go-getter, start a business kind of personality.
It makes sense though. People always focus on like special skills. It's like you can learn a special skill within 3 weeks.
Oh yeah.
Do you think your attitude, your motivation, that's what you probably know this, correct me if I'm wrong actually, or maybe I'm just talking out of my ass, but I remember talking to a guy once and he was talking about how like for really high level military stuff, and that's why I'm saying I have no idea if it's true or not, but he said a lot of the times what they go off of after you get the physical shit down, it's just about like teamwork and camaraderie. Nothing else really matters at that point.
Yeah.
It's just about what can you do for like the dude next to you. Well, that's where like a lot of those like special forces and such, you don't really see a lot of young guys into it. Exactly. Let's face it, a lot of young guys are pretty selfish. They're not about the team. They're not about the family. You see a lot more older, mature guys that are involved, SEALs, special forces, Green Berets, all that kind of stuff, because they understand the teamwork that goes with it. And they've built it. They've nourished it. It's pretty rare that you see a truly young guy right out of high school going straight through it. And a lot of times if they're able to make any of those teams as being a young person, they're more set in back and just let them develop as a person and develop them into what they truly want versus like, oh, you're just a physical specimen. So
yeah, that makes sense.
There's just so many. Well, once again, there's so many physical specimens. Like that's the easy part. Yeah, like you can train that. Like you can't train the dude to be like, actually can't do like what I've always done. Where I need to like try something different. That's unique. Yeah, like that's the part that separates you.
Yeah, that's
interesting
self-development side of it. I think 100%. Somebody has to be interested in that themselves. You can't push that into somebody.
Do you guys think those like job aptitude tests mean anything? Like, did you ever have to take that in like high school or anything? Like,
oh yeah,
I don't remember.
Oh yeah, whether you're like gonna be like good at college, whether you should go to college, what you should do if you go to college. We took some.
Whether you should be like HR or be like an auto mechanic or something like that.
Yeah.
Just think it's so dangerous to tell a 16-year-old like this is what you're smart enough to do. Like, because we all know no one is really trying on that test. You know what I mean? So it's like if you're all like really focused and took it seriously, that'd be great. But like, I don't know, dude.
Well, like you got like for example in the military, what is it like the ASVAB?
Yeah.
Or like, do you think that's a pretty good determiner, or do you?
It's a good foundation, good basis to be able to determine on fundamental knowledge and see what areas they already excel in. So that way, whenever they do join the military, that's what job opportunities that they have. But they can always retake an ASVAB later on to be able to get higher scores, be able to go to elsewhere. Because let's face it, we all change as we get older. We get more intelligent in certain areas, and then we get dumber in other areas. So
And your motivations change over time. Things that you once liked and once enjoyed. Like bodybuilding was my obsession for the longest time.
Yeah.
And now, at 32 or something, 3 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, something like that, it really kind of died off for me.
Yeah.
And it was I had a lot of fun doing bodybuilding, but now bodybuilding feels more like a chore, where back then bodybuilding felt like what I loved. I woke up in the mornings and I was like, I can't wait to work out. I'll eat whatever you tell me. I would eat the nastiest shit if I had to, just to look the way I wanted, perform the way I wanted, right? But now I'd be like, I never want to go back there. I could do it, but I don't want to,
Yeah.
So how old were you when you joined military?
17. I was literally 6 days after my 17th birthday whenever I joined. So I had to get the parent consent. Mother already knew I was going to join the military whenever I turned 18 anyway. So she's like, why not just let you get a year head start so that way you can retire faster? So it was January 30th is my birthday. My entry into the military is February 6th of 2009.
2000. So did you go straight into active duty or how'd that work?
So I did the split up program. So basically I went to basic training in between my junior and my senior year. So went to Fort Benning. I don't even know what it's called nowadays. They changed a lot of the fort names, but at the time it was known as Fort Benning.
So the new woke names, right?
No, actually, I do appreciate this one. It's based off of the guy who Mel Gibson plays in We Were Soldiers.
Okay.
So
that is a badass movie.
That is.
Shout out Mel Gibson.
Yeah.
And everything he's
I don't
been.
even know if I've ever seen that one, to be honest.
Dude, We Were Soldiers is a phenomenal movie.
Okay.
Mel Gibson actually plays a badass. Hal Moore. There we go. So it's called Fort Moore now. So that one I'm actually pretty appreciative of.
Okay.
It's actually based off of somebody who has changed the course of U.S. History, because that was back when helicopters were being first introduced into combat. And he was one of the original paratroopers that switched over to aviation and was really trying out new tactics and implementing them into the actual combat stratosphere.
Really? It's pretty crazy.
So real quick, before we continue on how you joined the military, give us your top 5 military movies of all time.
Ooh, I'd probably number one, it would be Band of Brothers. So not a movie, but a TV series. I'd definitely say that still holds up even to this day for how old it is. And then Saving Private Ryan's right there, right after that, because that was made
hard to top that.
Yeah, it was made in the 90s and it still looks phenomenal on all the TVs.
Just up with Normandy. It's just
It's been a long time since I've seen that one.
Yeah. And then I would definitely say Lone Survivor, because someone who's actually been in combat, that's probably the most accurately depicted combat scenes I've ever seen, of the way how they're in the forest whenever they first started the engagement, versus a lot of Hollywood like Black Hawk Down. I love that movie, but it's not realistic.
Yeah.
Especially how much ammunition that they're using, that doesn't really happen. But watching Lone Survivor, that's very, very, very accurate in the way how it happens. So
who was the star on that one? Was that one with Mark Wahlberg?
Yeah, Mark Wahlberg.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it was about Marcus Luttrell and the guy that beat CrossFit guy, Michael Murphy.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So,
So that's 3.
Four.
Three. That's 4.
That's 4. Wait, one more.
Okay, one more.
Ooh, one more. I really don't have one. I have to. There's too many things that I nag on them.
I mean,
What about
there's so many ways
Probably
you can go.
Patriot. Honestly, probably Patriot, just because.
That's a great
It's a great movie.
Yeah.
Dude, the forest.
It's another Mel Gibson, and there's Mel Gibson.
You can't get away from it, dude.
Yeah.
Put Braveheart in there. Right
You wouldn't
now.
think of it, like, I don't think of it as a military movie, like in the way that
I
we're
was about to
talking
say
about
300.
300, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's
I mean,
fair.
they are military. I just don't,
No, he's not wrong. Obviously, it's his list. I'm just saying, American military movies, like, there are probably like 4 or 5 good ones.
Yeah.
But war movies, there's a million.
Like the Patriot did a really good job of explaining the way how we actually won the Revolutionary War, because those frontline tactics, we lost like almost every single one of them, especially for like the first 5 or 6 years of the Revolutionary War. We lost every single engagement.
Yeah, because we kept fighting like they wanted to
Yeah,
fight.
exactly. And we started fighting the way how the Indians fought, and that's what Mel Gibson's character
Like
was
the
based off
Vietcong.
of. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Was the hit and run tactics, and not sit there and engage and stand in front of each other, shoot each other type warfare. So that's how we end up winning that battle. And actually, funny thing you said, that Vietcong actually based their strategy off the way how the French and Indian War.
Really? So you know all this on the Vietnam, because I was watching a TikTok video on the Vietnam War, and it just blew me away, all the different things they had in the tunnels and the way they trapped people and killed people in the tunnels and all the booby traps and things that they had there. Were the tunnels, I guess we looked it up the other day, but like the tunnel warfare and stuff, does that go back, before this war for them? Or is that that was part of the whole strategy?
Yeah, that was part of their strategy, because that's the thing about it, is because obviously we had the air superiority. They would never be able to win that against us. But if you can hide your troop movement, your supplies and ammunition underground where we can't see with surveillance, granted that there's a lot of thick jungles out there, so we couldn't really see everything anyway, but you can still see little bodies moving through the forest. So that was part of their strategy, was just hiding stuff so that way we could not really have a well-developed game plan. When we would attack certain areas, we would think that they're lower strength, and next thing you know, it turned out to be an actual freaking ant colony of big hog soldiers there.
That's crazy, dude.
Dude, can you imagine just just being the dude that's like, yeah, you're going into the tunnels.
Dude, I could not imagine that.
No.
Yeah, bro, sorry, little Ricky, you're going into the tunnels.
Chasing some guy into the tunnels, and it's pitch black, and I saw this one video of a guy that was a soldier from Vietnam, and he was talking about how many people he had killed in the tunnels, and it's pitch black, and he's just fighting and stabbing or whatever it is. I'm like, dude, just insane.
Well, I mean, that's with the Japanese when we were fighting them. Because that's one of the big things. If you look at World War II, when we're in the European theater, it's looked at as more like a romantic war, because we're fighting to be able to stop the Nazis from killing all the Jews and such. So genocide that's happening. But then if you look at when we're fighting the Japanese, it's not looked at as romantic at all. It's hard to be romantic about the Japanese theater, because
they started it.
True, they started it.
They started that. Make sure that's in there.
Yeah, they started it, but it's one of those things though. It's hard to be able to make it romantic.
No, I know what you mean. There's nothing sexy about nuking people.
Yeah, because even if you look at the Band of Brothers series, so yeah, Band of Brothers, and you look at how well done that is, and how people can make that relatable.
Oh, I know what you mean. There's documentaries about Nagasaki.
Well, they have the Pacific Theater. The same people that created Band of Brothers, they created a series called The Pacific, and people were not nearly as attached to that one as they were Band of Brothers. It's just because the type of fighting that was done and the relation of it, it's just completely different.
Really?
I don't think
we'll go on that. What do you mean?
So if you look at how gritty the Pacific Theater was, because they're dealing with malaria, the mosquitoes, just going from island to island. Their whole strategy in the Pacific Theater was island hopping, because we didn't want to have to go to every single island and conquer it. No, as our Navy started progressing throughout the theater, we would just conquer certain strategic islands, and then we would basically leave other islands occupied by the Japanese, because hey, why do we want to sacrifice our troops to be able to take this? Because they're going to fight to the last person.
Yeah.
Versus the Germans, they would surrender. So the Japanese, you go in there, you're basically fighting every single person to the death. It was dishonorable for them to be able to surrender. So that's another thing about it. Why it's hard to be romantic about when you're fighting an enemy like that.
Yeah.
Unlike with dealing with the Nazis, let's face it, everyone wants to punch a Nazi, especially back in the day. Everyone wanted to punch a Nazi. They had all those campaign ads about punching Hitler in the face.
Yeah.
Well, it's tough to know. And, I'm not trying to sound coy. It's a quote from Gladiator, but it's it's hard to, people don't know when they're conquered.
Yeah.
And,
I mean,
it's would we, and we don't have that, the Harry Carey heritage. All that stuff. So it's a tough mix. And I know what you're saying, though. It's not romantic.
I saw there was still a guy that was hiding out, a Japanese soldier or something that was still hiding out for 50 years.
Yeah.
Something like that. And they had to drop things in the sky to try and because they had some reports of seeing this guy out in the wilderness or in the jungle or whatever it was. And they had to start dropping pamphlets and go and find him. Hey man, the war is over. You can come out.
Yeah.
His loyalty to the emperor was to the end, and he stayed out there. It was crazy.
I would just let him stay. Let him do his thing. He's been out there 50 years already. He's got his way of life down.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing.
The government would never let someone just live peacefully out.
But that's nature. But that's the thing about someone like that, they're in that state of warfare their entire life. That's hard to be able to bring that person back to reality and bring them back to, hey, we're just going to let you go to a 9-to-5 job that. That shouldn't happen.
No, that's crazy. That'd be tough.
I feel you run into a lot of issues with guys who join the military when they're 18 or whatever. And then you see a lot of that with the Iraq and Afghanistan conflict. So they go straight out of high school into the military and they're infantry or overseas. And then they come home and have to adapt to a 9-to-5 for a normal job. And that's where you see a lot of, I feel a lot of issues with depression and not knowing their purpose in life. And a lot of the suicide comes from. What do you think about that?
A lot of it's going to come down to camaraderie. That's where you see a lot of veterans nowadays. They're joining jiu-jitsu gyms and such because you have that camaraderie. You have that feeling of being a part of something again. But one of the big issues that you have with those 18-year-olds that are going into infantry, it's not a transferable skill set. So that's another thing is they spend 4, 8 years, how many of a time serving the nation, and then next thing you know, they come out, they can't get a job because they're not qualified. Because let's face it, even police officers, they don't want to hire a guy who's just trained to shoot and kill. So that's one of the big issues that we have in our military that we've been doing a lot better job about, is trying to make certain skill sets transferable, it can be done, but it's how do you find that relation in your mind to be able to make it transferable? Because as you start progressing through the military, you can develop really good leadership skills. Like there's a lot of great leadership schools that I've attended to actually at Fort Leavenworth, Kansas. It always gets known as a prison, but it's actually the think and brain of the Army. That's where they hold all the high-ranking civilian courses. They hold our war college there, where our full colonels will go there and they'll get educated on past military conflicts and how to become a better leader and all that kind of stuff. So you can make that transfer those skill sets, but it's hard to teach a young person how to do that because that's not what they want to do.
Yeah, it makes sense. It's no one joins the military to get transferable skill sets.
No, they don't.
Especially when you're 18.
Yeah, they think of like, oh, I'm going to go off there. They watch Saving Private Ryan and think they're going to be one of those guys. And it turns out that most of the time while they're in the barracks, they're just doing shit jobs, cleaning, mowing the grass, doing stupid little details. So,
yeah. And I talked to my buddy from the Marines, exactly what he said. I joined to kill people, and I literally was cleaning toilets 6 months later.
yeah.
Somebody's got to clean toilets. So,
yeah,
that's true.
Somebody's got to clean the toilets.
That's true.
So what point did, MMA, jiu-jitsu, fighting, things like that combat sports come in for you?
I would definitely say probably high school. I was always attracted to mixed martial arts, watching it back in the day. I mean, that was back when Randy Couture, Chuck Liddell, those kind of guys were the headliner of the sport. That was back before MMA was super popular, so you'd only have one pay-per-view every few months. So it was something that I was really built into, really looked forward to. So I always enjoyed that, and I remember attended a couple of combatives classes in the military, and one of the instructors that I would always go with, he was like, dude, you got a lot of natural skill. Like, do you ever thought about going to a jiu-jitsu gym? And sure enough, I ended up finding one locally, and I remember calling them on a Friday, and all I could hear was people yelling, screaming, and the guy who answered the phone was just huffing and puffing the whole time. I'm starting to think, I'm like, what is going on here? And anyway, so I hung up the phone after talking to that guy, and I drove to the gym, and the first thing I see is, as I'm walking to the door, is a white towel that's filled with blood being thrown on the floor. And then I turn the corner, and I see a guy named Brandon Phillips dropping a guy with a body shot. I'm like, what the fuck am I getting myself into?
Sounds a lot like a lot of other stories I've heard about the sport.
Yeah.
So did you get into fights in high school or anything?
Yeah. A lot. So the group of friends that I originally hung out with, we were really close knit. Someone messed with one of our group, we would try to fight the entire group. Like we were just, even though my class was shitty at sports, we were known for at least beating up all the other schools. So we just had that close knit brotherhood with each other that anytime that we'd end up going to party, one of our friends would end up saying something stupid and then starting a fight, and we'd just end up getting a lot of fights. And that's what kind of really draw me to it, just because as human beings, we're naturally drawn to violence. Us watching TV, let's face it, all guys, we like watching action-packed film. True. We just like watching violence. So
yeah, that's true. So when you went in, did you start out with jiu-jitsu? Did you start out with, fighting as your intention, or what was?
Fighting was the intention.
Okay.
Straight the intention. I remember, so I joined JMTK, which was Jiu-Jitsu and Muay Thai at the time. Mm-hmm. I left for deployment, and I still trained while I was kind of over in Afghanistan and the Middle East. But whenever I came back, the gym that I originally joined split in two, and I joined Fox Fitness with Jake Fox. Mm-hmm. And the first week I was there, I showed up there. It happened to be a sparring night. I remember I got my nose freaking broke on the first night. I showed up the very next day, and he was like, okay, you actually do want to fight. You're not just sitting there saying you want to. Because that's one of the big things you see nowadays is, back in the day, it was a lot of true guys that just wanted to fight, versus nowadays it's becoming such a mainstream sport.
It's cardio now, dude.
Well, it's not even just that. You're seeing a lot more athletes are becoming fighters, not fighters becoming professional fighters, but athletes that are becoming fighters. Yeah. So it's a different mindset. That's where you can see. So that's why you see guys like Max Holloway. They're always talking about we're the last of the dying breed, because those guys just wanted to fight. versus those athletes where you can see that mental toughness is different between the athletes that become fighters versus the guys that are actual fighters. They're just going to stay in there until literally their body stops.
So you think the athletes that are going in there is for a different purpose? It's for credit, status, things like that?
Both. That's why you see a lot of the smaller wrestlers, let's face it, right out of high school or even college, if they make it to the college level, what are they going to do? They wrestled their whole life. It's too competitive to go in the Olympics, so they end up actually turning. A lot of those fighters turn to mixed martial arts.
Yeah, unless you're a freak wrestler, you're probably just going to go to UFC or MMA.
Yeah, they're going to turn into MMA, so that way they can still continue and utilize their wrestling, because a lot of those wrestlers they get their degree and then next they go from wrestling on a national level to working in an office job, cars. Yeah, it's a huge switch for those guys. So that's where we see a lot of smaller weight guys, I should say.
You see that in jiu-jitsu too. That's why you see the growth of jiu-jitsu now, is because you see a lot of these guys who wrestled all the way through high school or whatever, and they just don't have a way to mentally cope with things, because a lot of people instill these things in their head, they grow up wrestling or grew up playing sports, and that's kind of their mental coping mechanism. And then they turn 18, they're out of it. They still have all these crazy hormones going on until when you're about 25 and whatnot. So that's where you see a lot of issues happening, and where I feel like jiu-jitsu kind of comes in just from personal experience.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah, there's a lot with jiu-jitsu. It's definitely an old guy sport too.
Oh, straight up. So I was joking around with one of the guys who I actually fought back in the past. Him and I are good teammates now, Chuka Willis. And him and I were joking around about the different personalities that fighting brings compared to jiu-jitsu brings. And a good example of this is I can literally leave $100 on the ground in a jiu-jitsu gym. Somebody's going to give it back to me, or they're going to let me know hey, you dropped that. But you do that a room full of fighters, that shit's gone.
Yeah.
The personalities it attracts is just different.
That is interesting.
I actually enjoy talking to jiu-jitsu people a lot more, because you get people from all sorts of backgrounds. You get your little stoner kids that are hippies to doctors to military guys, law enforcement, all sorts of different backgrounds. And everybody, when we get on the mat, we're all there to help make each other better.
That's what I mean when it's cardio, though. I mean in a good way. Dudes don't lift, they do jiu-jitsu now. It's just super casual in a good way, I think.
Yeah.
Because there's so many people. It's kind of like CrossFit almost.
Yeah,
kind of a similar vibe.
I would take it as for some people, obviously in jiu-jitsu, it's the new CrossFit. It's the way to stay in shape, to be flexible, to be powerful.
It's just the non-weightlifting thing.
Yeah. I mean, and if you're going to do something like that, if you put 10 years into it, you're going to be phenomenal if you keep going. For 10 years in jiu-jitsu.
Way more of a skill than lifting, weights.
Yeah, for sure. Just
some people can't do the repetition. They're one of the fighters I train with, Julian Marquez, who's currently fights in the UFC, the middleweight division. He absolutely hates lifting weights because it gets too repetitive for him.
It's boring.
Yeah, and that's where he enjoys doing the wrestling and jiu-jitsu, because it's chaotic. It's something different every single time we get there. We maybe drill the same thing or go over certain stuff for about 20, 30 minutes, and after that we go live. So it's not I'm going to do 5 sets of squats, then Bulgarian squats, or then chest press every single time I go to the gym. It's always something different.
Yeah, that's true. That does get repetitive at the gym.
Yeah.
I never minded it, but.
Can you take me through the difference when you said you fight a lot as a kid, you get into scraps and whatnot?
Mm-hmm.
So what's the difference going on in your mindset, your head, your adrenaline, going from street fighting to your first real fight?
So
when was the first?
Yeah, when was it?
Oh, God. I remember one of the guys that I ended up getting in a fight with the kid I'm actually good friends with. I don't even know if you'd even call it a fight, because we were fourth grade. It was more like a wrestling match. He was going, it was just basically, I don't know, Big Brother, the other person.
In the
yeah, but just kind of growing up, just being that generic freaking young kid that just had testosterone. We just get in fights. But again, back then it was just more proving a point. I'm the top dog versus nowadays. Granted, I had my first fight amateur-wise back in 2014. I already been deployed.
How old were you?
22, 23, something like that. So, but I already been deployed. So the mindset is completely different, because at that point in time, I'm all you know what? I've already been in Afghanistan, been shot at, blown up at. So it's the worst thing that can happen is this dude punches me in the face. So, but whenever I go in there, though, that's where I get that little nickname, Mr. Hyde. The person that's talking to you now, Dr. Jekyll, super calm, always try to be respectful and nice I can. But whenever I get in there, I want to change that person's fucking face. I literally want to make that guy wish he never fought in a day of his life.
What's the worst that you've done? What, like damage-wise? I want to know.
Broken the guy's orbital bone in his nose and tore his labrum in his shoulder.
Damn. All right. Do you think he thought that fight was worth it afterwards?
Every time.
What was the labrum like? Probably like a Kimura or something.
Yeah. It was actually that was my third professional fight. I hit a Kimura. I actually tricked the commentators because they thought I was going to go for a straight arm bar from top side. I picked up that far side arm and isolated it and looked like I was going to go for an arm bar, but I sat back and switched the other way and went for the Kimura. And I have a couple of videos I can send you guys, but literally you can see that guy's hand almost touching the back of his head. That's how far back his shoulder was. And it completely tore out the labrum. I think he said he had to have shoulder surgery shortly after that. I didn't realize what I did to his nose and his orbital bone, but
so it was the same guy.
Yeah, it was all the same guy. So
of course, he was like, "Yeah, it's worth it."
Yeah. So because like in that fight, that I just dealt with my first professional loss, which was a split decision. So I was like, I had a statement to be able to go out there and prove, and I really wanted to hurt this guy when we got in there, and it was on UFC Fight Pass. So I went in there. I didn't realize the damage I did to his face until after the fight when I was talking to him backstage. But I hit him with an elbow that broke his nose and ended up fracturing his orbital bone. And then we got into a scrambling situation on the ground, and that's when I ended up hitting that sweet-ass Kimura. So
was he just not tapping from that, or would you just hit it quick? And
I hit it as quick as I could and as powerful as I could. Yeah. He was tapping as soon as it was coming back. But here's the thing. Big John McCarthy, who's one of the founding refs in mixed martial arts, he says that the fight is not over until the ref steps in. So we've seen it time and time again where we like to call it a Brazilian tap, where it looks like they're tapping, but that's more or less they're just somebody's doing that to get the guy to
get the ref to get.
No, it's not even the ref. It's to get the other fighter to kind of let go.
Ease
if
up.
The ref doesn't see it, then they can get out of it. So it happens quite often.
Why is it called the Brazilian tap?
Well, you can
because a lot of
you know why. That's why it's called the Brazilian tap.
Yeah. But yeah, so
the dirty fighting methods of the Brazilians.
Dude, yeah, like those Brazilians, Brazilians are the only people I know that will, when they have a grudge, it's like a lifetime grudge.
Oh,
really?
Dude, yeah. Well, it's all Latin Americans, but like, it's being married to one, it's all of them. But with the jiu-jitsu is more prominent there and fighting and whatnot, so you see it a lot more. You see it a lot more there.
How funny.
But going back on to whenever I fought that guy, I didn't know what the damage I did to his face until after the fight, whenever I was talking to him, and he had his arm in his sling, and there's like, I'm about to go to the ER to go to get an MRI, check out my shoulder. And that's when I was like looking at his face, I was like, did I just do that? Like, what the fuck? And sure enough, like black eye on his left eye, and you could just see a nasty cut. His nose was just like pushed in. All swelled up, and he was bleeding pretty good. But on the tap, though, right as soon as I was cranking out the Kimura, he was tapping immediately. But that's the thing about it is you don't let go until the ref steps in, because even at the end of a round, you hear the bell go, doesn't mean the round's over. The round is over when the ref steps in, actually stops the fight. So the bell is only an indicator for the ref to stop the round. That's
okay. That makes sense.
So, like, when you're getting like rocked around, like you're getting cuts on your face or your nose broken, are you feeling that? Like, I don't know if it does happen to you or like, like
I've only bled in one of my fights, so I don't know how I'd react. I know I bled in during sparring, and it just pisses me off. I want to hit the guy even harder. But that's part of the one things why you train so much. So that way when you deal with it in a fight, you know how to react properly. You don't get either emotional or too caught up in it, because there's plenty of times when guys are starting to bleed in a fight, they've never bled before. They're trying to figure out, like, what am I bleeding from? Where am I bleeding at? Versus just being concentrated on the fight. Same thing, like your nose getting broken. In boxing, it's a lot more common than MMA. So when your nose gets broken, obviously it's difficult to breathe, and people just want to blow the blood snot rockets out. But here's the thing, though. If you do that, it actually swells up your eyes. Exactly. And there's a lot of MMA guys that don't know that. Like, even on the highest level at UFC, I've seen Eddie Alvarez. He's one of the former UFC champion. He did that in the middle of the fight. Same thing with Donald Cerrone.
Dude, it happened like 6 months ago. I remember seeing somebody do that. And I was like, Jesus, what are you doing?
Well, now I know. Yeah. Now if my nose is broken, I know. You just don't try to get it out. So.
Yeah. Your eye will literally swell up within seconds.
It's crazy.
Yeah. It gets like air in there and just shoves like when they
I guess that makes sense.
It kind of comes up underneath the skin here.
Yeah, it's nasty.
Yeah. That's crazy. So what was the road to professional status for you? Like how many fights? Like what did that look like?
6 amateur fights. I went 6-0 as an amateur. I probably had a shorter amateur career than probably what I should have. lot of guys, I didn't want to spend a long time as an amateur because that's another thing about it is you take damage at the sport. I don't want to be one of those guys that has like 20 plus amateur fights and then I took so much damage as an amateur and now I can't take a punch as a professional. So, but I went 6-0. I tested, or my coach was pretty good about directing my amateur career, fighting guys that were similar records. And then towards my last couple amateur fights, I had really tough matchups for either. I know my very last one, I stepped up a weight class and fought a dude that was 7-0-1, and I was 5-0 at the time. And that was the first time I actually dealt with somebody who was just fucking huge because I stepped up to 155 to fight. I typically always fought at 45. And I get a message from this guy's manager. It's like, hey, can we do a catch weight at 160? And I'm only weighing 163 at the time. I'm like, yeah, sure, why not? Like, I'm here to fight. So, and then we get to the weigh-in. I'm like, this guy's pretty big. And then that was the actual weigh-in. We still had to do the ceremonial weigh-in 6 hours later. Oh. So I got to see this dude 6 hours later. We had to do our face-off and seeing how much that guy ballooned up. I'm like, what the fuck? This guy is huge. Like, if you see the picture of us side by side, we look like we're separated by two different weight classes. Really? Like his neck was like twice the size of mine. His traps were huge. I remember we clinched up and he literally like ragdolled, threw me up in the cage. I'm like, what the fuck? Like it was crazy.
So were you like at that point? What was your strategy to win that one? Were you going for grappling, striking, or minimizing?
I wanted to strike more because with me being the smaller guy in that fight, I knew it was going to be faster, and I was out striking him. I heard him a couple times in the second round with a couple of liver kicks, and it forced him to do a shitty shot. And I ended up actually catching him with the arm and guillotine shortly right after that.
So a guy that's bigger than you, is it body weight? Is it arm length, height? Like what are the biggest disadvantages to you in fighting somebody?
I would definitely say weight more than anything because I got a short reach anyways. I got a 6'7" reach and I'm 5'8". I know the average person typically their arm length is supposed to be the same as height wise they are. So I got below average reach. So I've always been fighting people that have longer arms or they're a little bit taller than me. So that's nothing new, but the weight is what's different because on striking, you can kind of get away with it. But when you start getting those grappling situations, especially if they're on top, that's a lot more extra weight that you're carrying on you. You're going to get fatigued.
Yeah, just laying on you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
That old phrase in fighting, just laying on them.
Yeah. That's what, when I did jujitsu, I got tapped a few times just with fat guys, just like,
yeah, they just lay on you.
Just lay on me. I'm like, okay, guy.
When you get that gi on too, like it's rough.
Yeah.
Like it'll be like feels like you're drowning in it almost. Yeah. You got some fat guy on it.
Yep.
Oh, it's not fun.
No, that was the way they did it though. You just go against the fat guy and they're just like, I'm just going to submit you by just putting all my pressure on you, all my weight.
Yeah.
All right. I didn't know what I was doing either.
So what kind of stuff goes through your head when you're in there? Like what kind of doubts and like where does your mind go? Like does it take you to different places? You discover a lot about yourself. I know people tend to say that.
Yeah. So Teddy Atlas probably said it best. He talks about anytime a fighter fights, it's our opportunity to be able to make life fair. And like I had a very shitty upbringing growing up. Not to get like too involved in that at the moment, but kind of dealing with that. That's the only time where I feel like I don't have certain rules hanging over my head and everything's within my control in there. So that's my opportunity to be able to make life fair. That's really the only thing that's going through my mind is like, you know what? This is my time to be able to prove myself that this is my opportunity to be able to make my life fair and try to make a better living for myself. But as far as if any doubts happen, the only time that will happen is if I ask myself a question leading into the fight, especially fight week, did I do everything I possibly could do to prepare? Did I make the practice I need to be able to make a fight? If I could say yes to that, I'm prepared. If I was eating clean, was I eating like shit? Like a lot of those type of questions, if I can say yes to, if I ate clean, I trained right, I did the right things, then my confidence is going to be an all-time high. But if any one of those questions are no, then I'm going to start imposing that self-doubt in myself of like, oh, I didn't prepare for this the way I should have. I should have done more of this. I should have done more of that. So I learned that lesson in my sixth professional fight. I was fighting a guy who was about a 500 record. I had some personal issues kind of going on. I was there just to train versus actually like dedicated train. I went through the motions and because if we rematch this day, I'd beat the shit out of this guy in the first round, hands down, finish him. But at the time, I just thought I was going to steamroll right through this guy. And this dude actually showed up to fucking fight. And I was winning all the rounds. And then it wasn't until the last 10 seconds of the third round, I got complacent in the third round up against the cage. And he threw an uppercut and it literally shattered my nose and pushed it all the way over to the right. I had to get it reset right after the fight. I couldn't see anything for a solid 3 minutes. Like, that's how black everything was, right? Because my nose was completely shattered. So I tried staying on my feet the entire time right afterwards, but because I couldn't see anything, the ref stopped it, which I got pretty pissed off about because it's like, dude, 10 seconds left. Like, let me get punched a couple more times.
Yeah.
For 10 seconds, I would have won the fight. But it is what it is. But I learned my lesson of, doesn't matter who you fight, you have to take everything professional as professional as you can, because even though you're determined to beat this guy, it's still a fight at the end of the day. They're still going to have a puncher's chance, and all it takes is one punch to be able to change the course of the fight.
What's the hardest you've ever been hit?
Ooh, probably to the liver.
Yeah?
Yeah, because there's nothing worse than when you get hit in the liver, because you're there, but your body shuts down.
Really?
And there's nothing you can do about
I've
it.
heard this so many times.
Dude, I remember I was in high school, and you remember, like, I don't know if it was a thing for you guys where you always just do bodies in the bathroom, where you just like fight in the bathroom, but you don't hit in the face. You just like stay to the bodies.
No.
Yeah. So you go back to class.
for me.
Yeah. You can go back to class and like continue and like, duke it out and not have to like, so that was easy.
Yeah.
Dude, I remember.
It's the meridian in you.
Yeah, it's just the meridian away. So, dude, I never hurt. I didn't even know what a liver shot was. I don't think this guy did either, but he got me with it, and my knees just folded.
Really?
I've never. It's crazy. That was the first time I've ever felt that. I don't think a lot of people understand how debilitating that is. Like, it just shuts you off. Like, it's just a button.
Yeah, it's so like when you see people get punched in the head, you see them get wobbled or they get dropped and such. Like, that's their brain kind of shutting off. So it was Stitch Duran told me this. So you got two little bones in your jaw that stick straight up. You got holes right above it, and then you got a nerve right above that, right? So when that jaw gets hit, it shifts over, and that bone touches that nerve, and that's when the lights go out, or that's when you get rocked. But you don't know what happened. That's why all the time you see fighters, they're so like asking the corner, like, or the ref, like, "Hey, what happened? What happened?" They don't know.
Or I'm fine. What do you mean?
Yeah,
I'm good.
yeah.
Like, yeah.
But when you get hit in the liver, it's totally different. You see it, you feel everything, and your body just folds and shuts down. It's
Crazy.
It's terrible.
Yeah, I had no
You
idea.
can't breathe.
Yeah.
Can't breathe. Like, it's like getting the wind knocked out of you, and then like times 10.
Damn.
It's terrible.
That sounds terrible.
Yeah, no, that's why you see those people throwing out body shots a lot, is trying to get that, or like you're breathing hard, and then somebody's hitting you in the stomach or in the diaphragm and whatnot. So you're breathing, you're already, and it stops and whatnot. So that's why you see that slowly taking progress on people, is because they can't get their full breaths. Their body's starting to get chipped away at and whatnot.
Okay, that makes sense.
But so tell us about, you got a fight coming up, don't you?
Yeah.
March 30th, EFC, Hartman Arena, right?
Yep.
Awesome. So tell me a little bit about that.
Drop down a weight class, going down to 135 bantamweight. I usually
First time at bantamweight?
Yeah.
Okay.
I usually always fought at featherweight, which is 145. But back in December, I lost my appendix. Actually made it a week and a half with a ruptured appendix.
Yeah, I remember that.
So no appendix, drops to weight, we're good to go. So
Yeah. December was a pretty scary time though, man. I'll tell you what, because like it was weird because like my temperature was stuck at like above 99. I knew something was wrong, but I thought it was food poisoning. So I was like, you know what? Don't be a bitch. Just tough it out. And then a week later, I'm still having like a fever, and I actually got up to one night like 103, and that's when I was like, I think I need to go to the hospital.
Yeah, that's a problem.
Yeah.
Sure.
So I went to actually scheduled the appointment with my family doctor. And so he's sitting there asking me, he's all like, "Where's your pain at?" And he started feeling right around my abdomen. And then he asked me, like, "You still have your appendix?" I was like, "Yeah." And he's all like, "I need you to go get a CT scan done today." I'm all like, "Is it that serious?" He's like, "Dude, it's very serious. Like, I need you to get it done today." He's like, "I already contacted the ER. They're expecting you." I'm like, "Oh, okay." So I drive down the ER, I go in there, do all that stuff. And I remember the ER doctor, female doctor, comes walking in there. She's like, "You don't have an appendix. Like, I don't know how you're walking right now." I'm all like, "What do you mean? Like, is it really that bad?" And it turned out actually part of my colon got split open too whenever my appendix ruptured. So it was a little bit more serious than just a traditional, I wouldn't say traditional, but
so it just blew up in there and just like fucked it all up.
yeah, well, like, because when the appendix ruptured, whenever the ruptured part happened, toward the Holden colon, and the doctor told me like I had a guardian angel looking out for me or something because none of the feces came out. Oh, yeah. And they said like if any of that came out, it could have very well turned septic and turned something fatal very, very quickly. So I was very fortunate on that. But I got hospitalized one more time right after that because they missed some bacteria, and then I actually applied for the Ultimate Fighter the day I got released from the hospital. I got like a tube stuck in my stomach. It was terrible, but I got fully released. I think it was like January 8th or something like that. And the guy who I fought, who's now my teammate, Chuka, very first sparring session back, and he ripped a body shot right to my liver as hard as he could. And I was like, you know what? It doesn't feel bad. Like we're good to go. So messaged the promoter and was like, hey man, we're good to go. Like let's find a matchup.
How long has it been since your last fight?
April 1st of last year, unfortunately.
So you're coming about a year layoff.
Yeah.
How do you prefer doing that? I know some people actually enjoy having a lot of time between fights, and some people don't.
I don't. I'd rather stay busy.
Stay busy?
Yeah.
So do you plan on staying busy after this?
Absolutely. So there's a couple of the things I'm looking at. So I'm going to fight March 30th, go out there, beat this dude up. And then either I will headline a card in Kansas City June 1st.
Would that be for Synergy?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's the game plan for that one, or possibly because right as soon as I can prove I can make the weight, I'll be making 135. I'll be 12-4 with 11 finishes and on a 5-fight win streak, and hopefully another finish. Hopefully that will potentially earn me an opportunity to be able to make a short notice UFC debut shortly right after that. Because as long as I can prove I can make 35, because my management can't schedule me or put my name in the hat 135 until I prove to the UFC I can make the weight.
Sure.
So as soon as I can prove it, that's another division that my management can put me in, because right now they can put me at 145, which is one of the most competitive divisions in all mixed martial arts. So it's a very difficult to get into UFC in that. But if I can add 35 to that resume, that now they can start putting my name in the hat for 2 different divisions.
If fuck it, might as well go down to 25. That's a light. That's
I'd probably die trying to cut that weight.
Hey, that's a light division to UFC, you know? Like
it is. You know? But they're honestly one fight away from nixing that division though.
Yeah, that's true. Because like, what are you gonna do? You're gonna do Royval and Pantoja again? Was that?
Well, they're like one bad fight because like they almost nixed him when Demetrius Johnson was fighting in there for the longest time because he wasn't a marketable person. Fortunately, Brandon Moreno and
Cejudo.
Figgy.
Oh, Figueroa,
yeah. So he came along and had probably one of the best fights of the year and showed that, hey, these dudes can put on exciting fights. And it's the only thing that's been keeping that division alive is people like that. So that's all I'm saying. They're one bad fight away from potentially getting nixed. So
yeah, that'll be interesting because they're so fast and so talented there.
Yeah.
35 is getting very like complete as well.
Yeah. So it's coming a lot more competitive. So
what do you feel like that's just the technology coming into MMA? Like, because you said when you first got into it, it wasn't like it is now. Like, it was isn't as mainstream. I remember, living in Vegas when I did and doing stuff with like the UFC guys there. It was insane to me, like seeing the PI. I don't know if you've ever been to train. They have like cryotherapy, cold plunges. They do what's that acupuncture you're talking about, Jared? Where they go
dry needling.
Yeah, they do. Awesome. They do dry needling there. Like it's very cool about how they've organized that. They have one in the UAE. I believe they're building one over in China as well, and in Brazil.
Yeah.
And so with this new influx of technology and money being put into the sport, where do you see the sport in 15, 20 years?
Potentially the Olympics there. I mean, they're already talking about it. So like boxing in the Olympics, I think mixed martial arts will be right there in the Olympics too. The question is how are you going to be able, what kind of people are going to be able to allow it? Just amateurs, or because that's one of the talks that they've been allowed or talked about with boxing is, are they going to allow professional boxers back into the Olympics? But I would say it's not so much a technology pushing sport, but it's knowledge. So it's the same thing with bodybuilding. The more that's been around, the more knowledge that's been going around into it, the way how those bodybuilders can get as low fat as possible and be able to get on stage and be able to perform and do those long weeks of preparation for it. You take that same knowledge and now it's come a lot more knowledgeable for fighting because it's no longer just like the old school wrestling. We're just going to dehydrate ourselves for days and not eat anything to be able to make weight.
Yeah.
A lot more people are taking kind of that bodybuilding approach of eating more meals throughout the day, doing a water loading process that you worked with me on in the past, on how to properly cut the weight and be able to put the weight back on in a safe manner without just completely dehydrating my brain. So it's pretty cool to be able to see how far it's coming, but I would definitely say the information out there is what's pushing the sport to become further, not so much just technology.
Is that information that's just social media information, or is that the fighters in the different, camps and things like that? Or what do you think it is?
Experience being shared via just how available it is now with on the internet, from social media, all the different dietitians being out there, from coaches, from the fighters itself, because it used to be back in the day just a handful of people that were knowledgeable in mixed martial arts, because it was a lot of more single discipline coaches, and then the mixed martial artists would be stuck putting everything together. But now it's switched. Now you got all those old school guys that are retiring, becoming coaches, and they have a wealth of knowledge out there, and they understand how to cut the weight, how to put the weight back on, how to train properly, because there's different ways to be able to train for a training camp, especially if you want to be striking heavy. I'm going to work a lot more fast switch muscle fibers because I want to be as quick as I can, versus wrestling, grappling. It's more your slow twitch muscle fibers, which is your endurance and such. So the evolution of strength conditioning has even changed dramatically over the last couple of years.
Yeah. It gets to a crazy point, I think, or eventually, where people get so nuanced with every small little detail of their days, their fights, their lives. They're almost to the point where it's like, go back to the basics and just like, let's enjoy this again. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But that's the same way with bodybuilding and training. I felt like everybody starts tracking things, and eventually it's just, I just like to lift heavy and
it just takes one genetic freak to remind everyone that's not necessary.
Yeah, the genetic freaks definitely come in there and throw people off.
Need your Arnold, your John Jones, then everyone's like, you don't really need all that shit.
But it gets to that point where like people will track everything. I mean, with the new technologies they have of tracking everything with your body biometrics and things like that, it will get even more. I mean, people are putting glucose monitors and things in their body, things like that. That goes to your cell phone now, and now you can change up what you're going to eat every day.
Yeah, think based off dieting, even like there's NFL guys that like, I can't eat shellfish anymore. Yeah. I feel way better. I'm sleeping more.
It's crazy.
So,
but I mean, eventually it gets to that point.
We're only going to learn more about that.
Yeah, it will. It'll get crazy over the next 10 years for sure. It'll go crazy.
So walk me through about how important nutrition is, supplementation, and all that stuff for your performance in both MMA and being able to be like the best soldier you can be.
Nutrition, hands down, is the most priority out there, because nutrition goes along. It's such a broad subject of sleep, food, timing of the food, everything that you put in your body, what kind of food that you're putting in there. Because like a lot of people out there, they think of like, oh, I'm just going to go off, I just need a carb load. Well, it's like, well, what kind of carbs are you putting in your body? And then try to time it just right, so that way it gives your body the most energy it can to be able to survive the next training session. So, but sleep's probably one of the biggest things out there that everybody neglects, because there's only so much time in the day. Everyone's trying to do so much stuff that they neglect it. They don't get enough sleep, because that's something else out there too. If you don't get enough sleep, your hormones are going to get all out of whack. You can't properly recover. Your energy's just going to be subpar and all that kind of stuff. So, supplements definitely do help play a part into it, because with how many training sessions we have to put in a day, supplements are a quick and easy deal to be able to get what my body needs. Or even more so, like I take your products of Thermoflux and the Yohimbine to be able to help burn off fat, and the caffeine built in those help me get through my all my training sessions, which I don't even use. I couldn't tell you last time I even took pre-workout.
Yeah.
Even to go to one of my strength conditioning sessions, and it's help controlling my appetite too, where I'm just not like trying to eat to just stuff my face full. I'm just eating enough to where I'm not hungry, but I'm still hungry. If that makes sense.
Yeah. How many training sessions do you get to whenever you're preparing for a fight?
Depends. So certain days I'll do 3 days. I mean, hell, there's been times where I've even done a 4-day, but it's all smaller, reduced training sessions versus like your long and depth training sessions. So like typically on a Monday, I'll show up to pro practice at 10 a.m. and we'd be done about 11:30. And then I'd show back up in the evening at 5:30 and we'd do jiu-jitsu from 5:30 to 7, then 7 to 8 MMA striking. Mm-hmm. And then Tuesday, about similar time frame, except for it would be more of the wrestling heavy on the pro practice morning. And then we'd do all pure MMA from 5:30 to 7. And then I'd probably hit mitts for a little bit right after. Wednesday, I do a lot more of my strength training first thing in the morning, just because that's when I'm going to have the most energy. And then I do just jiu-jitsu in the evening. But Thursday, I've been doing a 3-day where I will wake up at 5:30 to go train jiu-jitsu from 6 to 7 a.m. And then about lunchtime, I'll go do a cardio deal where I'll run a few miles, do sprints, They got, I don't even know what's called, like the little skier deal. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
I do that a lot in different intervals of like 20-second intervals. Then I'll hop on Soul Bike for 20 seconds, just something about get my heart rate up and using different muscle groups because that's the way how fighting is. It's sometimes I'm striking, sometimes I'm grappling.
Yeah.
Be able to switch it up so that way my body's kind of used to that in a sense. And then in the evening, I'm back at MMA from 5:30 to 7. Friday, we do our hard sparring. We'll do probably about 10 to 12 5-minute rounds. And then I might do something in the evening. Usually I kind of chill. And then Saturday, we do our 18 rounds where 10 rounds of no-gi, jiu-jitsu, basically submission wrestling. Then we do 3 5-minute rounds of MMA. And then we do 5 5-minute rounds of hard sparring right afterwards. And Sunday, kind of my active recovery day. I'll kind of do whatever I want. I'll definitely go
Open mat.
Yeah, I'll go to the open mat. But in the evening, I'll maybe go for a long walk or go for a cycle or something like that. So
I don't do much on Sunday, just more than everybody else all week, you know?
Yeah.
Bro, you got to go to open mat on Sunday.
Well, that's like Kansas City really doesn't have a lot of open mats on Sunday.
That was the best part about Vegas is because I can go to like, they'd have an open mat like from 10 to 12, and they'd have another gym habit. And I got to roll with people like Aljamain Sterling, Bill Schwally.
Yeah.
Rob actually tore my MCL.
I'm not surprised. That dude's a monster.
Yeah, so it was kind of cool like seeing all those guys, Patchy Mix, Chris Curtis, just all those guys in the same room. So you can go up to the little UFC guy like, hey, you going to roll? And obviously, if you're not a dickhead and trying to like,
hurt them.
You heard them. They're fine and whatnot. So it's a lot of fun. That's one of the things I do miss about Vegas, and just being able to like do that with kind of those professional guys. I feel like the Kansas City MMA scene almost kind of took a hit with the like gambling shit that went down. Like what was that? Like a year ago?
A little over a year ago. So.
Yeah, because they had one of their main coaches there that isn't he barred from participating in UFC stuff? Yeah,
so I'm not going to go into too much detail about it because I don't know all the information on it. Because James is a very good dude. Like. I will consider that dude a friend, and I'd still seek out advice from him. But he's just in an unfortunate situation. So for the listeners out there, what the situation that happened was one of our guys at Glory MMA and Fitness, he actually had a knee injury going into a fight, and the betting lines for this guy significantly increased that he was going to get TKO'd in the first round. And that's exactly what happened because the guy got hit in the knee a few times and ended up folding over, and that was it. So they considered a TKO. But those betting lines with how much money, the amount of money that you have to put down on a Vegas betting line to increase those lines.
Yeah, it has to be significant.
Yeah, it's a significant amount.
Isn't it 6 figures?
Yeah, and more so is this is for unknown guys.
Oh, I can put it together. I'm listening.
Yeah. So, because like
some guy out of nowhere places $100,000 bet.
No, I'm not talking about that. I'm more talking about the fight itself. These are two like relatively unknown UFC fighters. Like your big names out there, everyone's going to bet on those. True. But the amount of money that was put down on two relatively unknown guys is what raises suspicions out there, and that's how the investigation ended up happening. James Krause actually used to have a Discord. Giving advice on how to bet on fights, like put it this way, this
wasn't illegal though. Like I just want people to know that this was not illegal. Like this is like I said, this was a newer sport, so they're just now starting to get like this infrastructure, this like gambling infrastructure, like they have for like bigger leagues.
Not just that, like he had like his Discord, like because he even had a show on UFC Fight Pass. I would sit there and talk about the way how he will look at fights and the way how like this is how smart this guy is. Like he had 16 bets on one event. He went 14-16 on all of his bets. Like, that's how smart that guy was. And these are with a card full of fighters that he doesn't know. He doesn't train.
He's in legal trouble. He's not.
Well, it's not legal. It's with the like commission and whatnot.
Yeah. So, but the issue was that was one of his guys. Whether if he betted on it or not, I don't know. I don't think he did, but I think it's just because his name's associated with it, and it doesn't help that he had a Discord on it. So they're going to put 2 to 2 together. But he's been on an investigation for like the last year and a half. And anything that deals with the government, it's going to take its sweet old time before anything happens. But the UFC ended up banning him. And they also put out a publication out there saying any fighter that's associated with Glory MMA Fitness cannot compete in the UFC. So, because originally Glory had 3 locations in Kansas City, one in Overland Park, one in Gladstone, where I'm at, and one in Lee Summit. The Lee Summit one still stayed Glory, but the other 2 locations had to not only debrand, but they also had to provide paperwork to the UFC to show that James Krause had no association with those gyms whatsoever.
So what are they called now?
You have Ignite MMA and Jiu-Jitsu Academy that's up in Gladstone under Zach Cummings. And then the other one that's becoming a pretty popular gym out there is Marathon MMA, which is ran by Trey Ogden. Trey's actually had a pretty influx of random guys coming to him that are currently in the UFC, like Garrett Armfield and Miles Johns. They come from 2 super camps and ended up actually training under Trey Ogden now up there.
So is there like an appeal process for that, or how does that work, or is it?
I mean, what can you appeal if there's no decisions been made?
Yeah, there's nothing to appeal.
Well, that's fair. So he just has to sit in it until like.
Yeah,
that's the downside of that industry.
Yeah,
still in the Wild West.
But the bright side for him is, I know I've chatted with you about this playing Fortnite on, is if he comes out of this entire investigation clean, dude, the amount of money he can sue the UFC for is unreal because of what's the technical term of
lost earnings? Like
no, it's not so much lost earnings, but it's the damaged reputation of him.
Oh yeah,
it's libel.
Yeah,
deprivation.
The word.
Deprivation of character, basically.
Yeah,
it's assassination of character.
Yeah, because your business. Exactly, because they basically blacklisted him and basically guilty verdict before any of the findings or the investigations completely come out.
That seems to be a trend these days.
Yeah,
it does. Yeah,
yeah.
You're guilty in the court of social opinion.
Yeah. But hey, I mean, I bet he can make some pretty good money now selling his bets.
Well, the thing about it is the UFC actually came out and they stated any active fighter cannot bet on any UFC events anymore.
Yeah.
Maybe we should ban our senators from betting on the spots.
Nancy Pelosi's betting on some winners.
Sorry about that. Too soon.
She bought a bunch of cybersecurity stock. Right?
Yeah, right after.
Yeah, to make some money.
Yeah.
Buy what Nancy buys.
You know, I've been wanting to get into investing. I'm just a dumb 24-year-old. I don't really know where to start. So I figured I'd just start watching whatever Nancy invested in. I just do the same.
Yeah,
so
just watch what senators or start investing in. I mean, like if you actually go back and look at like the net worth of those people before pre-office compared to where they're at now, it's absolutely insane.
Nancy Pelosi is technically more successful investing than Warren Buffett.
Yeah.
Literally.
I know.
It's like not an opinion.
Yeah. I mean, you got that insider knowledge. How can you bet wrong?
It's hard to fail the test when you have the answers.
Yep. You know what's coming already before. Yeah.
So let's talk a little UFC because I know people love this for the clips and whatnot.
Yeah.
Okay. So I want you to give me into 2024. Who do you think stands as your champions? Like who give me some hot takes here that you can see being champion or making a rise in divisions that people may not see.
I think Izzy will probably take his belt back, especially against DDP at the middleweight division. Light heavyweight, I don't know. That's kind of flip a coin on that one.
Well, you don't think I don't know. I think Pierre will just knock out Jamal.
I don't think so. I don't think it's going to be that easy. Jamal is actually a very legitimate threat, and he's very well-rounded. So he could be the new champion after their fight. Who knows? That's the beauty.
He did piece up Glover pretty nicely.
Yeah, exactly. So heavyweight, I think Thomas Spall, because John Jones and Miocic will fight, and then they'll both ride off in the sunset. Then Thomas Spall, he just stands out at heavyweight.
See, I thought that too, but now you see kind of John Jones kind of like he was like, oh, it'd be nice to like retire with Stipe. Now he's saying like, oh, now I got to take care of Tom. Yeah. And he wants to take care of Stipe, Tom, and there was like one other guy that he wanted to fight. Oh, Francis.
Like so with John Jones, even though he's considered the greatest of all time, the division that he was fighting in, and it's one of the unique things, if you look at the way he fought people, most everybody he fought was shorter than him. The guys he always dealt with issues were the athletic people that were just as tall as him. Granted, he came back and beat the fuck out of Alexander Gustafsson in their second fight, but most of the people he deals with issues with are people that are actually his height. So heavyweight, they're going to be bigger, they're going to be stronger, they're going to be just as tall as him. So and he's just older. He's got a lot of injuries. So I think he'll just do that one fight and just be done with it.
I gotcha.
The UFC is talking about disbanding the 170-pound division and
doing
175 and 165. So I think we're going to see huge jump in guys actually fighting closer to their walking weight versus cutting so much weight to be able to just fight, because now you have more options of going to different divisions versus trying to always just be the biggest guy.
That's the cool thing about One. One does a very good job at making their fighters fight at whatever weight they're weighing. And I honestly love the rule set. Like I love One Championship's rule set where you can, ground kicks are fine. Like it's a lot more realistic to like actual fighting, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But what do you think about the 170-pound division? Like, let's say it stays. Who do you see Leon staying champion there?
Yeah, I think so.
You don't think Shakhmov, or I don't know how to say his name, that like
he could, but he still has some questions I'd like to see answered first. But he could very well prove that against Leon. But Leon's he's the only one that really stands out, in my opinion. I think Khamzat is a top 5 guy, but I don't think he'll be champion. But hey, who knows if they even keep that division around? If they don't, we're having the pointless conversation of talking about that one division because those guys are going to go to a completely new division.
Yep.
So it's going to change up the landscape completely.
Awesome. So I just kind of have one last question for this, and it's kind of for anybody that might be considering getting into fighting or joining the military. What is some wisdom that you wish you would have had when you first started that you have now that you feel like you can offer to those individuals?
Have a backup plan.
It's fair.
Yeah, because you don't make shit in fighting until, like, even those guys that are in the UFC, like, you really don't make much money. Like, fortunately for me, having the military career, I have a position that allows me to work from home, and they're not clock watching me all the time. So I'm able to go to the practice that I need to go to because they know I'm going to do my work. So most jobs are not going to be that way. And in order to be able to become one of the better guys out there, you got to be in the gym 2 or 3 times a day, consistently training. But here's the thing, gym memberships aren't cheap. Even then, fighting in the UFC, let's say I make it to the UFC tomorrow, my first paycheck will be $12K to show, another $12K to win. Sounds cool, $24K to win a fight. But here's the thing, the taxes aren't taken out.
That cap was 12 weeks.
Not even just that. Like, taxes aren't taken out of that check. I got to pay 10% to my coach. I got to pay 10 or 20% to my management. And that's all. That percentage is not after taxes. That's pre-tax.
Okay.
And then exactly the camp costs and all that kind of stuff. So however much money that you put into it, like, fighting
you pay to fight.
Pretty much.
That's what Whitey, I have a buddy that used to do it, not at this level, but he would always say, until you get elite, you pay in the fight.
Pretty much, yeah.
You pay your gym memberships, you pay your medical bills.
Yep.
You buy supplements.
But this is where talking with Jared previous and talking to a few others, where I've become pretty knowledgeable in is using a lot of this stuff as tax write-offs. So I use
the great American art.
Yeah, right. I mean, honestly,
make a fake LLC.
I mean, bro, that, like, literally,
we can do holding the podcast.
That's literally how the wealthy keep their wealth, is because all the tax write-offs.
You're 100% right, Alex.
So with the write-offs out there, you can get a lot of money back as a professional fighter. Because guess what? As long as I fought one time that year, that was my job. So I can write off the mileages to the gym. Yeah. I write off working from home. I write off a portion of my electricity, portion of my internet. All my gym fees, anything I buy for the gym, I write off all. So I have
So it pays for that?
I do.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So all the stuff because unfortunately I have a good career that pays.
No. Sorry, the stuff you write off. Yeah, I was confused. So you don't pay for that stuff, obviously.
I mean,
he pays less tax. Is what it comes down to. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, more or less, I probably will break even until I make it into the UFC. Then I will have to start paying the government taxes that they already steal from me.
Yeah. I saw there was a bodybuilder once that I don't remember which court level he got to, but he went and he tried to write off his food as a business expense, because to be a bodybuilder, you have to eat a certain amount of food, a certain type of food, all that stuff. They ultimately said no, but it was everything else, like posing oil, supplements, all this other stuff was all part of his job as a professional bodybuilder.
Well, that's the thing about it. Like, I've heard it. I haven't had a tax person give me an exact, like, black or white answer. They just say it's like a really gray area. Like NFL,
because the laws change every year, by the way.
Yeah. True. But like NFL guys, they write food off when they're in season. So
during the season,
So
during camp.
Yeah, and that's where I've gotten the black and white answer on from the weigh-in to the fight itself. I can write food off.
Yeah,
but it's like, hey, what about like wherever I'm in training camp? But here's the hard part: is fighting. We train every single day, year round. When do you determine when you're not in camp? So my question that I've been trying to get answered is like, hey, the day that I sign my fight contract, can I start fighting or start writing food off?
Yeah,
because
why should you be able to pay?
Camp?
Yeah, there's no food you should be able to pay for.
Yeah, because that's the thing about it, because like
Everything is contributing to your diet.
Yeah, because my body's my business. Like I need that optimal performance.
Your body's your business.
Yep.
Yeah.
Don't make dollar, don't make sense.
Yeah.
I love America so much.
Yeah.
It's true. I would think that's a reasonable after the contract is signed. I think that the answer is that you can do it. The question is, will you get audited and will you have a problem? And that's ultimately what it gets down to. You can always do it. You know, just find out.
They just hired a bunch of people to audit you.
Yeah. Unfortunately, you may not be in that high tax bracket where they don't give a fuck.
Oh, no, I still got audited almost every year.
Really?
Yeah. Ever since 2016, I get a notification like, you are being audited.
Really?
Well, fuck. I'm paying some stuff back. I don't have receipts.
Just keep your receipts.
Yeah. Well, dude, after like moving around so much, because like whenever I was living down here, I was just moving around, jumping from place to place. I never kept receipts.
Yeah.
But I have done a better job of any time that, especially digital purchases, I immediately have like a folder on my computer. I was like, drop that receipt in for taxes.
Yeah. You just take your phone, take a little picture of it, any receipt that you have, and then just throw it in the trash.
Yeah.
You know, and then you're probably, most of those receipts don't last anyway. They use the crappy, you know, heat thermal, whatever. After 6 months, they're gone. So you got to take a picture of them anyway. But no, that's the smart way to go.
Yeah. That would really be the biggest advice out there for younger fighters is become knowledgeable in taxes, because it's going to save you so much money in the long run.
It's just good life advice, I think. Like, not even fighters. It just applies to anybody.
It does. It does. Unfortunately,
it's great life advice.
It should be simpler. You know, we would all just rather pay a flat tax.
Well, who was it? There was
no tax.
Well, there was a senator that's actually trying to introduce that onto a bill where we're going to pay like a 3.5% flat tax.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's got
about no tax.
Taxation is theft.
Yeah.
Oh, bro, that would be nice if we paid no taxes, but
so 3.5% to shove it.
Yeah. So what was it back in the 1900s? It's when that permanent tax, they amended the Constitution to be able to start taxing us.
Yeah.
Something like that. So it was like 1908 or something.
Yeah, we didn't have income tax till right before World War I.
Yeah. Stupid. Theft.
So if people want to follow along your journey, see what's coming up with your fight, see what's going on, where do they find you?
Instagram. I do have a Facebook, but I really don't use that. Honestly, I really hate social media. I need to get better about using Instagram, but I'm pretty good about responding to stuff. I don't have an issue with responding. I just hate posting.
Just don't like posting stuff.
Yeah.
I get that.
Yeah, it becomes too much of a chore. So, like,
your body is your business, so
that's
you're going to have to. So.
I know.
Oh, I forgot about that. And you're going to start posting your body.
Yeah.
It is a business.
Yeah.
401k.
That's the business side of it, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Social media.
Well, that is one thing. Actually, going back to taxes, anytime I've ever promoted a fight, I bought advertisements for it. Yeah. Dude, I save that receipt as advertisement expense.
Yeah, it is for sure.
So,
yeah.
Same thing with like shirts. I can tell I make shirts, advertisement, because that's my brand. Yep.
For sure. That's a smart way to do it.
Yeah. Or Instagram, the Alex McGowen. No Twitter, or I guess, what is it even called? X. Yeah. I refuse to get that thing. They don't. Yeah, it's really the only social media I use outside my personal Facebook page, and even that I really don't post too much.
What about you got an OnlyFans?
Yeah.
It's coming soon.
Yeah.
Loading.
Anything you use on OnlyFans is business expense, though.
Sure.
All the food you eat on OnlyFans, that's a business expense. So you just record yourself. Your food. You know.
I just like, why can't we all have our own businesses?
We can
all the time.
All our own OnlyFans.
Yeah. No, I mean, no, but I like, I'm kind of trolling, but I'm kind of serious. Like that LLC thing. When's the government going to call us on it?
I mean, there's definitely some regulations there for sure that make it tough.
They are, but here's the thing: they'll never call us on it because that's how all their donors keep their money.
I know, and that's what I was about to say. Is they have to change the rules for everyone.
Yeah,
so that's what I'm saying. I don't want to get into the whole topic. But I was like,
go down that rabbit hole.
It's always a fun conversation with me and LLCs.
Yeah, it is. You can write it off otherwise. I don't think you have to have an LLC for it, to be honest. But
no, it's just the easiest way.
It's just easy.
Yeah,
you just have to keep all of your expenses and.
Yeah, but then you got to open up a second bank account for the LLC.
Yeah. Pain in the ass.
Keep those receipts, kids.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can write them off. There's like professional services and things like that. You can claim everything's professional service and, gym memberships, things like that. If you're a professional fighter, if you run a business, like when I was running 316 Fit, those things were part of my business for 316 Fit.
Yeah, remember.
I got to be in the gym. I got to use this new sweet camera to record myself. This cell phone that I'm using is a business cell phone. Yeah, all that stuff. So it doesn't work out as well as you want it to, but there's a little bit of savings. So
I mean, it's definitely worth the resort besides getting raped on taxes.
Sure. Yeah. The government loves to do that.
Or just have a kid. Just have a kid and you'll get not raped on taxes anymore.
Well, yeah.
That's if you get to claim the kid.
He's just
That's fair. That's fair. Make sure you have a kid of a woman that you'll stay with.
Yeah.
That's the important part. That's the important part. Yeah, the kid costs more than you save on the taxes, though.
Yeah.
Fortunately.
Still
Yeah,
losing.
they're kind of, they're kind of cute, and they can do chores. Like mine's starting to do chores now. You can throw stuff away. Like it's getting easier. Like you gotta take your little first 5 to 10 year investment where it's a little rough, but after that,
Yeah, I got some people coming to work for me here in a few years. My kids will grow up. I got some new employees.
Whole new workforce.
That's right.
Yeah. But the problem though is they have so many of those damn programs out there for people that have like 5 kids, no job, and they're able to just get those checks for free.
Dude,
try to be one of those people.
you're serious. It's crazy.
It is sad.
You just top the border.
People make
Border and you get it.
yeah, people make careers out of doing that. Like people make careers off of our welfare system.
They do. There's a lot of them.
Do.
But unfortunately, they're coasting at a low level. Those people never get to a high level in terms of income or spending or the way that they live. Most
I know
people
about that. They probably have those illegal activities.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's true.
I was just about
There
to
are
say
plenty of
that's
those.
not true. There's a ton of people that worked at the state that were making like $80,000,
Really,
and that was what they were getting.
that's crazy.
So then just they formed their own LLC, and whoopsie daisy, they're making $150,000.
crazy.
Free food for them too.
I'm playing
Yeah.
wrong. game here.
Yeah, free food. They get a free phone, paid for, all that.
Obama phones.
Yeah.
Thanks, Obama.
Yeah, I miss them.
That's it. I think that wraps up the which number is this? 21?
21.
21.
Nice.
Yeah, lucky number 21.
Heck yeah.
So, well, Alex, thanks for being on. Thanks for cranking one out with the Nut Club.
Yeah, appreciate you having me.
Yeah, it's a good time.
Thank you for cracking out a nut club. Please
Hey, wait. Make sure you subscribe to the channel.
make sure you subscribe.
Gotta
Yeah.
subscribe.
That's right. All right.
Please do.
Please.
Now leave.
Get
All right, see you
now
later.
get.